Hello, hello. Welcome on in, everyone. It is Slime Rancher 2 time. I am very, very happy to be playing this again. I was doing some testing of things last night, and I'm glad I did, because for some reason, when I run this game on the... I think I had it set to the low graphics preset before, just for performance's sake. Because I'm not usually, if it comes to absolute maximal graphic fidelity versus smoother frame rate and performance, I generally tend to prefer performance over absolutely gorgeous visuals. That's just kind of where I fall on that spectrum. And I suppose it's a good thing that that's where I lay with it, because even on the low graphics preset, I might have to do more testing on this and see if it's tied to a specific setting. I might be able to bump up some graphics in future streams. But for some reason, when running this game on the low preset, it still made my model kind of tank its frame rate a little bit. Well, a lot bit. I was easily running below 30 frames on my model with the game running in actual full gameplay. Thankfully, there is a lowest preset, and that seems to be running fine for now. So in between this stream and the next, I'll go through and tinker around with some more specific graphic settings. I'll just kind of go through the list one by one and try to see if there's a specific setting that's causing that issue. But last night was mainly just me making sure the game showed up properly and testing some different volume stuff. I did adjust some audio levels you may have potentially noticed. So I've tried to bump things up a little bit and also give the game audio a little bit more of an active presence in the mix. I feel like for a game like this, it's at risk of being more subdued and overshadowed in a way. But since it's been a while since we last played, I wanted to make sure it had a good amount of audio to work with. Good amount of volume, I should say. But let me know how the volume balancing is on everything, because I did change some things a little bit. It shouldn't be too drastic, but if it is, let me know and I can adjust that. But this is our old file from early access. I'm gonna leave it here for posterity, but we will not be using it. I always planned on coming back through on a fresh playthrough when the full release of the game came out. So that is what we will be doing. And this down here is my test file. I kept it there so we wouldn't have it next to the other actively present games. With that being said, I'm gonna leave everything enabled. We're gonna just leave everything at vanilla. I did consider potentially doing some player damage stuff, but I don't think it really makes all that much of a difference overall. At least not for me. Save icon though, I think that's kind of a tough one because you gotta love the tabby slime for sure. But at the same time, there's just something about the cotton slime that is so endearing. And since the other two save files at this point also have pink slime ones, I want to do something a little different. I think this properly encapsulates the kind of vibes that I'm going for with a game like this. And we'll get into some stuff as we get into the game. But first, let's get into the game proper. Music was kind of perfectly timed too. After a long day of slime ranching, Beatrix LeBeau was enjoying a cool glass of carrot juice as she watched the sun set across the slime sea. Suddenly, a boat arrived at her dock with nothing inside but a mysterious letter. You have explored the far, far range, from the dusty shores of the dry reef to the furthest reaches of the perilous glass desert. But there are worlds yet uncharted, Beatrix LeBeau. Rainbow Island awaits you. Climb aboard if you're ready for a new adventure. Beatrix excitedly boarded the boat, and it took her across the slime sea. Eventually, she saw an island unlike anything on the far, far range. Mountains, trees, and grasses, all in an array of colors that danced and moved like a dream. As she explored, she found an abandoned conservatory overlooking the rest of the island. Curiously, it was equipped with everything a slime rancher like her would ever need to wrangle slimes, start a farm, and build gadgets. And so a new adventure begins. Beatrix tightened her boots, readied her backpack, and set out to explore Rainbow Island and uncover its mysteries. She looks so good there. I love that art. Looks so nice. So here we are. Let's get moving. Grab ourselves some food here. Now, the main reason I'm leaving the tutorials on is just in case there are new mechanics that are not the same as they were in early access, or maybe even didn't exist in the early access. Just in case. Plus, you know, it's fresh playthrough. I feel like it makes sense to start everything fresh. And just real quick also, for anyone who has not seen this game before, I'm just going to do this for your benefit. Behind me here is my health and my energy meters. Those both start at 100. We can upgrade those. Let's get some buddies in here. These guys are going to be very, very important. Let's give these guys a little bit of foods, and then they drop these funny little plorts. And we can take these plorts, and we can sell them here at the plort market. You can see the amount of currency that you get for each plort. These update, I think, on a daily basis. So every in-game day, I think these prices shift. I don't know for sure. I haven't studied how this works, in terms of how the prices are affected, but I think it would probably be safe to say that it's generally the more of a single type of plort you put in, the less valuable it will become over time. Because I imagine they probably would want to encourage diversifying your slime types. So for now, we are just going to sell all the plorts that we're getting right off the bat. There are a couple of other uses for plorts that we will be getting to a little bit later. For now, let's head out and explore the Rainbow Fields. So the conservatory is kind of our home base. That's where we can set up corrals for the slimes. We can plant some of these food items to grow more of them for ourselves so that we have a locally accessible store of food that just regularly fills itself back up over time. That way, if we want to feed the slimes on our ranch, we don't have to go out into the field and harvest these little crop areas by hand. We can have something that is accessible on the ranch itself. So the pink slimes, they will eat anything when it comes to food. They will just eat fruit, veggie, and meat. They are not picky eaters. But as a consequence of that, they also don't have a favorite food. And we'll get into favorite foods a little bit later, once we start setting up the ranch in a little bit. Because right now, priority 1 is just to explore and gather some important resources early on. You'll want to grab this water lettuce that's right here, because that is a favorite food of the cotton slimes. And we'll want to have that in larger quantities back at home base. Now we have here a big boy, a cotton gordo. Now at different locations across the entire world here, there are going to be these very, very big slimes. And they're usually blocking access to an area or something else of relative importance. So it is definitely to your benefit to grab some food items and try to get these guys fed using what's available in the nearby area. Generally, as soon as you are able to, because there can be some really potentially huge benefits to certain Gordos. This one in particular is an important one for the early game strategy that I was kind of cooking up last night when I was doing my testing. So I definitely want to start them off pretty immediately. And whoa! They burst out into a bunch of little ones when they're fed enough food. I will say one other reason that the favorite food is important. One of the benefits is that favorite foods will count as 2 food items for the Gordo slimes. So you only have to feed them half as many food items if you feed them their favorite food. So that can help reduce the number of things that you have to feed help cut down on resource usage a little bit. But the reason I wanted to come down here is for this switch. You see over there, we've got some prismatic activity going on. And now, there's something a little interesting hanging out over there. We're gonna go check that out. That is indeed the next stop on our journey, which is why I like to come over here and get that Gordo taken care of pretty much right away. Now we do have a world map for navigation. That is not the button I have assigned to it, this one. So the conservatory, you can see each of the individual plots where you can build, like this one right here. That's where we have our starting corral that they give to us for free at the beginning. That's where we have our pink slimes right now, is in that little plot there. You can see all of the different building spots that are available to us. Though starting off, we only have access to this central area where the conservatory itself sits atop. These other 3 extensions, we are going to have to purchase those expansions once we have enough money. We may notice that the rest of the world is it's looking a little cloudy. We can't really see where we're going here. And that's where these little nodes come into play. Each of those gives us some map data, so we can kind of see where things are. We have a better lay of the land, and not just a hugely generic, rough shape of where land exists. So this is very helpful for I guess, course navigation, as in like course versus fine. Because this game definitely has a lot of ins and outs going on. So it can be, as helpful as it is to have a top-down map view like this, just generally exploring the world and getting a feel for how everything connects together on a vertical scale as well is very valuable. So they give us a refinery link here for free. What this does is we can do slime science back at the conservatory. There's like a little basement area underneath our house that we can go to. And we take different resources that we find across the world, slime plorts being one of them. There are also some natural resource nodes that we can harvest, and that also is used for different slime science projects. But what this refinery link is, that basically just takes whatever resources we put into it, and it puts it in the refinery back at home base so that we can use it for slime science. Well, let's see, we have a funny little guy here that wants to say hello. Research drones. These are basically our lore journals. So if you're interested in the story of Slime Rancher 2, definitely be keeping an eye out for these guys. They're basically the same as the holographic markers from the first game, where they are basically just like little journal entries to read. But a little later on, there will be a little something extra with these research drones. But we'll get to that when it's relevant. Accessing GG log. I was so in over my head when I first started here. I remember hauling Jellystone back to the conservatory by hand because I was so excited. Breathless and sweating, I was going about everything all wrong, but I was happy. There's little time now, so I'll need these refinery links if I'm going to be efficient. This time, I'm going to do it right. So already a lot of interesting details there. Here's one of the resource nodes. But we need a resource harvester upgrade, which we do not have yet. So we will have to come back to that later. But already we have some interesting things being set up. Somebody else has already been here, doing roughly the same business that we're going to be doing, and are in the process of doing right now. But apparently there's also now some sort of time pressure that they're under. Keep that in mind for the rest of the playthrough. We're going to be seeing some more entries about stuff like that as we go along. But now we've also come across our first treasure pod. This one gave us a power chip. So treasure pods are in set locations around each of the maps. They're basically just little secrets that we can find. And you may have noticed, actually on the map while I'm here, you may have noticed that they actually keep track of how many treasure pods are in each of the regions of the world. So that's a good way of being able to keep track. Because I don't think there is, at least in early access, there wasn't any way to show them on the map actively. So for my sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just be taking screenshots of all of these locations that I find them in, just so that I can keep track of them on my own personal map later. So I'm just going to take a moment here to organize that, because I have a folder set up for this. Because I'll draw up a better... I'll draw up a more usable map later once I have the overworld map actually revealed more properly. So let's see, I'll just title them based on the area that we're in and the order I found them in. Because doing this during early access was a little bit tricky. Because one, they kept adding new treasure pods to areas as new content got added in. So where it used to be the case... Oh yeah, you can set down a waypoint too, I forgot about that. You can just set down a funny little waypoint for yourself, and it'll show up on your compass at the top of the screen. Nice. So if you need any help with navigation, just plop down a waypoint where you want to go and follow the bright pink marker. Pretty handy. But yeah, so not only were they adding new areas, which means that the new areas each had their own treasure pod setups, but it was also the case that they would be retroactively adding handfuls of treasure pods to currently existing areas, which then increased the total number of treasure pods an individual area had to discover. I'm gonna come up here and get the other map. So now we have the Rainbow Fields fully uncovered here. Very nice. Just kind of taking a look at everything here. Because I think in early access, this area here in the Rainbow Fields did not exist at first. I think this was a pretty late addition to Rainbow Fields, this little outcropping here. That extension to the peninsula. Yes, we have a day-night cycle, and that does play into certain things. You may have noticed these guys popping out of the ground. These are phosphor slimes. These guys only appear at night. The sunlight causes them to vanish. So, if you want to ranch them at the conservatory, there's actually a specific solar shield upgrade for the corrals that protects the phosphor slimes from sunlight, which can be handy. Another thing that you may have noticed is that this guy is being a little bit rude. This is a tar slime. These guys will basically try to consume any and all slimes around them in order to further increase their numbers. So a tar outbreak can be a very dangerous thing because you see how quickly they're spreading out here in the wild. You can vacuum and then launch them if you need to kind of get them away from you or from the slimes. They are also susceptible to water. So it is worth keeping in mind that if you have water handy, that is an effective way of getting rid of them without having to try and find some place to throw them to get them out of the mix that way. The way that tar actually come into existence is based on... There's a certain system that exists in the game where, you know, we have these individual slimes, but you may have also noticed that there's these hybrids. They're called largos. So this is a pink slime and a tabby slime put together. And so they make a pink tabby largo. So each slime type can be mixed with another slime type. So you can really pick and choose what sort of hybrids you would want, even out in the field to a certain extent, but very helpful for the ranch in a handful of ways. You see this phosphor slime eats a pink plort, and it becomes a pink phosphor largo. So when a regular slime eats a plort type from a different slime, they then hybridize between what it was and the plort type that it ate. Now, if you have a largo eat another different plort type, say we have this pink phosphor largo here, if I fed this largo a tabby plort, it would become a tar. So 2 slime types is a-okay, but if you introduce a third type into the mix, then it becomes a tar. And as you've seen, that can quickly get out of hand because one tar can turn into many if given the time. Let's see, I don't think I need these carrots. I'm gonna free up the inventory space. So what I want to do, I'm trying to think of what I want to do here. We'll get rid of the pogo fruit as well. I need a couple of inventory slots here. I'm gonna take these cotton plorts that are around because we do need these for a handful of recipes. Oh, we have a tar here. Let's get rid of you. I think I need 20 of these to start with for my plan. Ooh, you guys are getting a little feisty. Just need one more. Oh, hello and goodbye. So nighttime can be a little bit scary in terms of tar outbreaks, because normally it's just pink and cotton slimes out here and that's fine. But then you introduce the phosphor slimes and you suddenly have a third slime type hanging around. And that can cause some major risk. So let's see here. The next place I want to go, now that I have those cotton plorts taken care of, let's check out this little spot that we unlocked. You can see over there, that's where we flipped the switch. Real quick, if I remember correctly, there should be somewhere around here a little treasure pod. Now the treasure pods have some different things that they can contain. Sometimes they contain gadget upgrade components, like that one that we found in the first treasure pod that we opened. Leave them alone, you big bully. Sometimes they can also contain things like decorations, like that swing that we just got. Just need my little screenshot here real quick. Because I'm going to be drawing up the map probably in between streams because I don't have one set up right now and I don't want to take too much time away from just exploring and experiencing the world itself. I just want to briefly document some important things like that, because it is very easy to lose track of where you've already explored sometimes. And that's why getting to know the world layout by experiencing it and just walking around all over the place and starting to figure out how things connect together and layer on top of each other is very valuable. The map is nice, but it's not going to show you all the different layers within some of the taller or deeper locations, like if there's caverns. So it definitely pays to have some first-hand experience. The dilemma of combining a more specific diet slime with a pink for easier plorts versus combining it with a rarer slime and getting multiple rare plorts per feeding, but needing the very specific food types for feeding. That is definitely something that's very interesting about the way that people can approach this game. Also, hello Ninja, welcome on in. Glad to have you here. It really is up to the individual. You can really determine what your priorities are and what sort of play style you prefer, especially as you unlock more options getting later into the game. Because maybe you do just want to have every slime type on your ranch mixed with the pink slime so that it doesn't matter what you feed them, they'll always give you something. Or you can take a more specific approach, like I did in the early access playthrough that I did, which for anyone who is not familiar, I did play through the early access of this game as updates came out, and that's over here. If you happen to be watching this from the archive, hello, and thank you for watching the archives. I do appreciate it. But one thing I did in the early access playthrough was, I think it was a little more biome specific or thematic. There was kind of a mix between the two. I would be mixing slimes together that were from either the same or similar biomes and also generally matched aesthetically. So say something like rock and crystal slimes I would mix together. Tabby and hunter slimes, I had those mixed together. I don't know exactly which way I'm gonna go with things long term in this fresh playthrough, but I do know what my early game strategy is going to be. And we'll need to go here to further that plan. But now we're in a new place. We are in the Starlight Strand. A vision of dusk and dawn, together as one. Now this place is visually very interesting because it's basically split in two in terms of its coloration. You can kind of see the divide right here. We have the blue on one side and we have the red on the other. You can even see that the big tree there, I think that's called the midday tree. Even that is split straight down the middle in terms of the coloration. And there's a bit of an aurora type effect going on as well. I do realize that I don't have one of the upgrades that I would want to have when coming out here to enact my early game plan. But we can still grab something useful while we're out here. These golden jars, I'm pretty sure these are new. I never saw these in the early access at all. So I'm pretty sure these are new. Seems like they drop world resources, things that you would be able to gather from resource nodes usually. I want to keep the radiant ore. We'll come back for wild honey later. But I do want to keep the radiant ore and silky sand. I wonder... Real quick, I'm going to take a slight detour and check and see if there is a refinery link over here. It's a pretty good haul for one pot. Yeah, that's... Especially before you have access to a resource harvester, which granted is not too difficult to acquire. Ooh, there's more water lettuce here too. Yes, please. I will gladly take that as very useful. I'm going to need a lot of these. Let me see, I can do something else here too. I want to take this plort with me. So even if you don't have inventory space, if there is something you kind of want to take with you, you can sort of pull it along in the vortex. Don't, you ate it, you fool. You absolute fool. These guys eat veggies, right? Here, let me pull the carrots out. Try to encourage them to eat some. I guess what I could do is just drop the radiant ore there for now. Grab the rock plort. I would like to open this for later. I may have noticed that these guys, they look a little grumpy. There are some specific places, usually denoted by these danger signs, where some aggressive slime largos will hang out. And that is something that I believe you can toggle in the settings. Let me see if it's in here. Yeah, they're called feral slimes when they've got that sort of angry aura to them. You can disable that and also disable the tar if you want a more casual experience with very minimal environmental threat. Which is definitely a nice thing to have. Also, I need to remember to take screenshots of this so I don't forget where these things are. Let's make sure I've got this saved under... This is Starlight Strand. Now let me make some subfolders here. I'm trying to keep everything organized. I'll move the Rainbow Fields screenshots later. So that storage cell is another upgrade component. It's not one we'll be able to use right away or one that we'll really need right away. But it's definitely nice to have for later. I didn't go this way in my testing, so I'm curious if I can maybe open up. There is another door over here. Yeah, we have this nice little seaside area. We've got this coral reef kind of thing going on. We've got angler slimes. These guys are kind of interesting because they're meat eaters, and they'll actually use the little lanterns on their heads. They can send out basically like a stunning flash. And that should, I think, I haven't observed the behavior too closely. I think that stuns anything nearby. I don't know if it's exclusive to their prey that it would stun. It looks like we need a hunter plort for this. So we will come back to that. There is a treasure pod though. Cheerful statue, nice. Let's add another screenshot to the gallery. Starlight Strand 2. Very helpful. Okay, we need to do some resource management here, so let's head back to home base. We've been away for a little bit. We can drop off our resources here in the refinery link. I certainly wouldn't mind having some more tabby plorts. They are a tiny bit tougher to get though. Just because there's not usually a ton of... There's not a ton of meat items to feed them. I find the meat eaters to be a little bit more difficult to ranch than any of the slimes that I would consider to be crop-based, where they eat fruits or veggies. And I think that largely comes down to the food source being more consistent with crops. I feel like the hens can be a little tricky to manage, especially because they move, whereas the crops don't really do much of anything. Well, we have 6 tabby plorts, that's not too bad. We would need 4 more of them though. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. But if we happen to come across 4 more of them, that would be pretty nice. I am slightly bummed out that I didn't find what I was looking for in that gold jar. So there's one resource in particular that's going to be incredibly helpful. First of all, let me get some high walls for this so that they can't jump out as easily. There is one resource in particular that's going to be very, very useful for what I'm trying to set us up for. Let's get a garden started. You just build a garden, toss one of whatever fruit or veggie you want to grow, and it'll start growing. It's gonna take a little while for it to propagate, so we will come back to that. I don't know if I have enough funds for what I want to upgrade right now, but I can at least show off the fabricator. This little spot right here is where slime science happens. Let me just go put this funny little dude up here. This will help keep the slimes a little bit happier, along with, feeding them. Just give them a little bit of food. They are quite hungry. They've been in here for a little bit, so it makes sense. That can also give us a little bit of extra funds to work with. Yeah, so this is where slime science happens down here. This is the refinery. So this is where all of the resources that we put in to that refinery link, this is where they get stored. Worth noting, you cannot pull resources back out of a refinery once you've put them in. So make sure that you are certain of what you are putting into the refinery. And make sure it's not something that you wouldn't rather have accessible to you on hand. But once you put things in the refinery, they become usable in the fabricator. We've got personal upgrades, like the resource harvester, which is incredibly useful. You definitely want to make sure you get this pretty early. It does not cost very much. The heart module can be a nice boost if you find yourself at threat due to things like tar or feral slimes. And even some passive slimes, depending on what type of slime they are. Sometimes they perform actions that can be threatening to your health. And the heart module can just kind of help give you a little bit more buffer to work with. But you can also change how much damage you take in the menu there. In the same place where you can enable or disable the feral and tar slimes. The power core, this is something I want to get. Because it might be kind of hard to see with my model in the way, but whenever we're sprinting, that takes energy. And when we run out of energy, or if we stop using it for a little bit, it will passively recharge. So this basically would just let us sprint for a little bit longer before having to recharge it. That's some new UI. Yeah, they have cleaned up some stuff for sure. There's a different appearance to some things. One thing I found interesting was the refinery used to be something that just instantly popped up on screen, but now it actually has an opening and closing animation. It'll take a little bit of adjustment because I'm used to just instantly seeing the information, but I think it's fine. I do like the little bit of flavor that having it actually come up from the bottom of the screen and that sort of stuff. That flavor feels nice. The dash boots are something I'm also very much interested in because they reduce the energy consumption of sprinting, so the energy you do have goes further when you use your energy to sprint. But I don't remember off the top of my head what resource we need. So we'll have to wait on those. Power Core is a much simpler indirect upgrade to the dash, to our sprinting capability. We also have the jetpack, which is what I wanted the radiant ore to build. We do need some phosphor plorts as well, so we can keep an eye out for those. I could have grabbed some earlier, but we don't need this, but it's going to be incredibly helpful. Tank booster is what I wanted the tabby plorts for, because each upgrade will give us more storage per tank slot that we have. So we can only hold up to 20 of a single item right now. Getting this upgrade would let us hold 30. I mean, just straight up 50% increase in storage capacity for individual items. So that can be pretty useful, especially early on when you're going to be transporting some resources by hand. You'll just be able to carry more of a single item back and forth. Extra tanks can be nice because these let you hold more different objects. You see, we have 4 slots to work with right now. We can only hold 4 different things. So being able to hold up to 6 by the time you get both of these tank upgrades, 6 different things, it lets you kind of gather more from your environment at once rather than having to make multiple trips back and forth for specific things. The water tank can be useful. There are certain things that you use water for. Early on, I think its main utility is defense against the tar. I feel like that's the biggest use. There might be some other interactions that I don't remember though. Yeah, this water tank is separate from your standard storage tanks. So you don't have to worry about this taking up any of your storage space. It is its own separate storage just for water. And then the pulse wave, which basically just emits a force blast that pushes things in front of you away from you. I don't personally use this just because I don't find the energy cost of using it to be worth the utility of it. But you never know, that doesn't hurt to have it. It does require some resources from the Starlight Strand, which is where we were. We have a utilities tab. We don't have anything unlocked here yet. We have a warp tech tab. We also don't have anything unlocked here yet. We do have a couple of decorations. Decorations are definitely something that you probably don't want to be using resources for early on, just because they're decorations and some of the things that they ask for are a little bit particular. Like drift crystals, those are a whole thing. We're not probably going to get into that today, but there are some things that are a little bit outside of the purview of what we're going to be getting into, and generally aren't the most effective uses of early game resources. Oh, this slime just wandered in from outside, huh? I guess so. That happens sometimes. I'm gonna grab the hen here. Sell these plorts. It is almost nighttime. If we could get 5 phosphor plorts, that would be pretty nice. You're coming with me, buddy. Gonna join your brethren here. I don't know that I need these. Well, I'm gonna free up the slot once I feed the chicken to the tabby slime. Hey, here's the phosphor slimes. So we'll see how this goes. I'm thinking we can feed you that, and then bring carrot this way. Oh, you ate it. Darn. Oh well. There's just too many pink slimes here to really make this effective. Excuse me. Pardon me. I would like you to come with me, sir. Because I would like to... I think I'll get rid of the pink plorts. They're not incredibly valuable, and I want the phosphor plorts more. I'll head over this way real quick. Just let these guys spawn in, start doing their business. Now you may notice these resources, they do make sounds. So that is something that you can keep an ear out for while you're out exploring. Here, food for you. see how we're doing. We need 4 phosphor plorts and 3 tabby plorts. I do see some pink tabbies over here. We can probably feed them just general foods. Get tabby plorts that way. One of the benefits of pink slime hybridization. There we go. That's the tabby plorts sorted out. So we can get ourselves a bit of a storage capacity upgrade. One fun thing the tabby slimes can do is just grab an object and carry it around. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they give you a little boop on the snoot. They're pretty funny little guys. We love them for that. We do appreciate a silly little guy every now and again. Hey buddy, you've kind of stuck there. Help you out. Now, if you're ever wondering what a particular slime type's favored food is, you can open up your Slimepedia, go to Slimes, and under the Slime Facts section, you can see their diet and what their favorite food is. And also just get a lot of flavor, but also a little bit of advice here. It's particularly under rancher risks, being able to know that cotton slimes are very prone to jumping, so making sure that you have things like the high walls and the air net upgrades for a corral to contain cotton slimes is probably a good idea. And I believe the slime type populates when you pull them into your backpack. Yes, okay. So if you want to learn more about a slime type, just pop them into your backpack real quick and you'll get that information. So for the phosphor slimes in particular, their favorite food is the Q-berry. Now, Q-berries don't natively grow in this region, so you're very unlikely to get any sort of exposure to them organically. You're probably only going to see them from things like those jars that we can break open, or if you go to a different region where they do grow naturally. They're not too difficult to find by any means. Just something to keep in mind. And that should cover us for the phosphor plorts. Now there's a ton of pink plorts out here, so I might as well grab these to sell. Well, maybe we'll keep 10 of them. We can get the heart module upgrade using that. And almost a full inventory of pink plorts just from them existing, basically. It's one thing that can be kind of nice about this area is just letting them do their own thing for a little bit. They'll just generate more plorts. Because there's a bunch of food in that area. There's plenty of pink slimes. we will sell up to there. Grab our crops here. Let's get these plorts deposited in the refinery. We should have enough of everything. Yep, we got 5 of those, 10 of those, 10 more of these. And our tabby plorts are there. Okay. I think we're pretty much good on resources right now. Now we just need money. Now I've just been having pink slimes in here so far. One thing that we can actually do is get ourselves some Largos. Because another benefit of the Largos, besides being able to cross over their food types, and Largos, they will retain the favored foods of both slime types that they are made up of. So if you have, say, a cotton phosphor Largo, their favorite foods would be either water lettuce or Q berries. You could feed them either one and it would give you the maximum feeding benefit. The other nice thing about feeding Largos, you may have noticed while we've been out here, is that they produce both types of plorts for being fed a single time. If you feed a Largo, it will produce plorts of both types of slime that they are made up of. If you feed them favored foods, if you feed a slime favored foods, they will drop 2 plorts instead of 1. And if you feed a Largo a favored food, not only will it produce plorts of both slime types, but it will produce 2 of each slime type's plorts. You get 4 plorts. So keeping Largos on hand is very beneficial as long as you can manage the risk. Because the one particular risk when it comes to ranching Largos is you want to be very careful not to have them escape. Because if you remember the risk factors involved with having Largos consume a 3rd plort type and turning into tar, you can start to understand the inherent risk involved in willingly having Largos present on the ranch. Generally speaking, though, as long as you understand the behavior of the different slime types, and you have properly upgraded corrals so that you can have things like the high walls and the air net to kind of help keep them physically contained and not able to encroach on other corrals nearly as easily. I've never had a tar outbreak in all of my time playing this game. So it's mostly just about being able to understand what your personal comfort level is and what you feel is manageable. Right now, I'm going to be keeping 4 Largos per corral, but that's because I'm going to be here pretty actively. Once we start getting out into more long-term exploration, where I'm going to be away from the conservatory for a while, I'm probably going to pare these down to just only having 2 Largos. just for safety's sake. And that's just where my personal comfort level lies. You might keep 1, you might keep 4. Whatever feels right for you. Let's see, early on, my main priorities are getting gardens up and running and just getting some cash flow. So we'll give them some food. And one thing you can do is you can go in here. You can sleep for 6 hours at a time. You can sleep until nighttime. Or you can sleep until morning. I think morning is 6 a.m. So we are basically just at morning right now. But if you sleep, for one, different times of day have different little idle animations for Beatrix, which is nice. Got ourselves a little Sammy. But that also accelerates the process of the slimes eating food, producing plorts, all that good stuff. So early game, if you just want to get a little bit more money, it can be useful to have a setup kind of like this, where you just have pink cotton largos, and you have some water lettuce growing. I'm gonna turn this into a third garden here, because I'm gonna be using a lot of water lettuce pretty soon. Yeah, and then just give them food. And whenever they've all been fed, you can go back to the conservatory spot and rest again. And that'll pass more time. And that'll keep the cycle moving a little quicker. One thing I would like to do here in particular is I think, yeah, 600. I want to get the... do I want the maximum harvest or probably twice as fast, I would think. So I need 700 for each of these plots. We could do that. Now, after 3 in-game days have passed, this little machine unlocks Pronto Mart. Polestar Provisions is online. Polestar Provisions has everything a rancher could ever need and more. Check back regularly for new stock. And Cuckoo Corner is online. Cuckoo Corner has crazy deals on new and exclusive items. Every day is a surprise. You can also pet the cat, and that does get you an achievement, as I accidentally found in my testing last night. I was not expecting that to be an achievement because I just forgot this game has achievements now because it's a full release. But yeah, so Cuckoo Corner, every day at 12, there will be a new assortment of items that you can buy in the shop here. And this is usually, I don't know if there's any specific pattern to what it decides to put in here or anything like that. I never really used this too much during my early access playthrough. I did use it sometimes, but I think mainly for slime toys. Because slime toys do help keep the slimes from becoming agitated as quickly. So it can help keep them from attempting to escape to other places, basically. And then in Polestar Provisions, this is a bit more straightforward. You can buy gadget blueprints and gadget variants, so you can have some different versions of decorations and things like that. Again, early on, you're probably not going to want to spend too much money on most of these things. But with gadget blueprints, there are some useful things to grab. If you like being able to place markers for resource types, you can get these resource flags, these resource flag blueprints. You will have to get the resources required to craft them so that you can place them around. But it can be a handy little marker that you can see on the map. So if you have trouble remembering where to find different resources and things like that, these flags can be helpful. The warp depots can also be incredibly useful because this basically acts as a two-way single slot storage container. So you place down 2 warp depots. Basically, you have a set of 2 terminals, and you can just dump a resource into either one of them and pull that same resource out of either one. What I usually use this for when it comes to ranching is I would have a section of the ranch that's dedicated just to raising different types of hens. And I would use the warp depots to basically just have immediate on-hand access to the hens next to the corrals that had the slimes in them that I would be feeding the hens to. But you could just use this for any sort of easy access storage system. I'm sure there's other uses for it, just giving an example of what my use case was for them. So these warp depots can also be handy to pick up. Aside from that, though, I never really messed around with decorations or much of the other stuff. Meowing at me? So I would say if you want to, the resource flags can be useful blueprints to have. The warp depots can be useful. Everything else is mainly cosmetic. So I would say personally, you don't need to worry about investing in other things right away, unless you just really want decorations, which is a totally fair decision to make. I tend to have a bit more of a pragmatic approach to this game, so I'm not huge on the decorations part of things, certainly not upfront, because it will be easier for me to gather the resources to make decorations later if I spend the early resources on useful and beneficial upgrades. That's kind of the way I see it. Yeah, one other terminal that exists here in the conservatory that I have not engaged with yet. We've been getting some messages at the comm station. And if you've played Slime Rancher 1, you'll probably recognize all of these characters. Starting with Victor Humphreys. Hello? Hello? Beatrix, do you read me? Testing, testing. Perhaps you are lost at sea, taken away by that mysterious boat, never to be... Oops, nope, just forgot to turn the display on. Nice to see your face again, Beatrix. I have missed you greatly, my dear friend. And while I am quite excited for you to partake in a new adventure, I already have data that might complicate things. Last night, I received a message from some sort of artificial intelligence program. It's written in code, but not one I recognize. I'm in the process of analyzing it. But I am certain that this message was sent from where you are now, the mysterious Rainbow Island. So, to recap, a mysterious boat takes you to a mysterious island, and I receive a mysterious code from said mysterious island. It all seems quite... curious. Well, I've got work to do, and you best get to exploring. Oh, I almost forgot. Take this home portal. It should make the early stages of your journey easier. We can now craft the yellow return home portal. Take care, Beatrix. We'll be in touch. You mean like right now? Hello, Beatrix. Seeing as you've taken an interest in building gadgets, I put together a little housewarming gift in support of both your pragmatic and creative endeavors. Wow, he actually said pragmatic right here. I forgot he says that. Well, there you go. I think you know which character I identify with the most early on, at least. Pretty clear. Looking forward to seeing what you build. Med station. That can be pretty handy. And he gave us one that we can use right away, so not only do we get the blueprint, but also a pre-crafted, usable med station. And a blueprint for the conservatory table. Oh, and 2 of them to place. That's very nice. And 3 chairs? Nice. He's letting us turn this house into a home here. So let's check out that return portal here. Let me mark everything as seen, because I don't need those little markers. Yellow return home portal. That's pretty cheap to construct. It's mainly just a matter of going out and getting some environmental resources and some more cotton plorts from our local Largos. Worth noting, this is a one-way portal. So wherever you place it, it lets you come back to the conservatory, but it does not let you go from the conservatory to where you place this. So worth keeping in mind that you will have to manually walk back out to where you were if you take this portal back home. But hey, it can cut down on at least half of your travel time, because you can just return to the conservatory immediately, which is pretty handy. Now, med station's kind of interesting. It basically exchanges energy and converts it into healing. So if you're in a bit of a pinch, if there's some dangerous areas that you know you have some trouble with and you take a lot of damage in, it can be helpful to have a med station nearby. Just to take some of your energy and give you a bit of a health boost. I personally have never used the med stations. It's nice to have, just as an option. But now that we have some decorations to place, let's check out the gadget mode. Now, unlike Slime Rancher 1, where you had specific places, there were designated locations that were gadget spots, now you can just you can set gadgets wherever you want. So say you want a table right here, you can just put the table right there. Pretty straightforward. I'll set down a couple of chairs maybe. Just set down some chairs. Just a nice little sitting spot here. Nice and cozy kind of spot there. There's a fun little things you can do, setting up decorations and stuff. Being able to have the free placement system really makes decorations a whole lot nicer. Like, there's just a lot more you can do with decorations in this game, being able to freely place them wherever. So that's something I might actually indulge in a bit more as we continue playing through. I mean, they gave us these for free, so it's a no-brainer to be able to just use them since we already have them. Yeah, let's see if there's another good spot for... You can see they already have some spots where it's already set up. They already have some examples of like, oh, here's some decoration you've got. You can see down here, that's the boat we arrived in. It's just docked down there. I feel like this might be a cozy little spot. To have a chair and table hangout. Let me see, where is a good angle for this? And just be able to watch the sunset from here. It's kind of a nice little spot there. Yeah. Just take a little break from the grind. Because I do have a bit of the grind set mindset when it comes to getting stuff early game, just getting set up. I think we should be good for a little bit. We do have some money. Let me see. What would we want to upgrade with this money? We can afford the power core or the tank booster, but not both. I'm gonna wait on the heart module for later. I feel like power core is the most useful to me at this specific moment. So you see now the next power core upgrade requires a power chip, which we found one in one of the treasure pods. So the first upgrades for these are pretty lenient and inexpensive in terms of the resources required to make the upgrade happen. It's the later upgrades where they start to really ramp up. How much you're gonna have to really go out of your way and explore and try and get some more of the treasure pods and more advanced and rare resources. Yeah, let me do a little bit more little bit more money gathering. Because we do want to get some more corrals as well. I think having 3 separate gardens will be fine for now, even if we don't have them upgraded at all yet. How much does a corral cost actually? I can make one right now. Because we'll want to basically make a second one of these here. And then I'm going to put 2 more of them on this side here. And then we'll have a storage silo here. You can see over here we have silo. So if you need some storage outside of your backpack, silos can be a good option. It's certainly better than just leaving stuff lying around loose on the floor. Gosh, even just that one energy capacity upgrade feels so good. Yeah, let's sleep until morning. The gardens have not gotten anything new yet. Let's gather some more plorts, get a little bit more money. Maybe get that corral fully up and running here. Get it fully ready for what we're about to do here. I do actually want to keep those cotton plorts because those were used for the home teleporter, right? So I want to have those in there. Let me just double check. Yeah, warp tech. Yep. We can grab 5 jellystone and deep brine on our way out as well. We'll toss those into that refinery link as we head back to the Starlight Strand. Some more plorts here. Let's just quickly clean these up. So you see that now that we've been putting pink and cotton plorts into the market a lot, their price has gone down a decent bit. So relying on the same type of plorts is going to generally become less effective over time, up to a certain point. I don't think there's ever a point where it literally will not give you any money at all. But there will be a significant and notable decrease in the value of each plort. So let's see, I want to grab 5 of these. I guess we can grab extra, it doesn't really matter all that much. Grab this treasure pod while we're nearby. Ooh, hydro turret. That can also be a pretty nice thing to have available to you. If you're not confident in dealing with the tar yourself, being able to have a turret that automatically defends against them can be very helpful. Just a nice little bonus thing. Again, not one of the gadgets that I usually use, but still nice to have. See, this is Rainbow Fields 3. At least from now on, the Rainbow Fields screenshots will have a fully open map. It's fully visible. So let me save that. Pop in here real quick. I don't remember what this cave is for. I think this might be a resource spawning spot. inventory resource I would very much like to acquire. So across the world there are different, I can't remember, is this the first treasure pod I ever found in my early access playthrough? I think it is. That's a heart cell, so that's probably for later health upgrades. Save my screenshot here. I want to keep track and make my nice little map later. There are multiple different resource node types. Those are spout resources. These are mineral resources. And then you may have seen them while we were in the Starlight Strand. There are also hive resources. We are going to need to gather some hive resources while we're in the Starlight Strand. One in particular. Oh yeah, there's a research drone over here. I forgot about this guy. Accessing GG log. Well, here we are again. I'm sending the drones out to all their original scouting locations. Once I confirm the conditions are the same, I'll get to work. This place. I still remember being in awe of these rainbow fields. It felt like being in a beautiful dream. And I guess, in a way it was, because it ended much too soon. Again, definitely putting some interesting questions there. What happened either to this person or to this place? Because whatever it was, it sounds serious. If you've either followed along with my early access playthrough or have played through the early access content up until its final update for yourself, you probably have a pretty good idea of what's going on with the story part of things. But I will not divulge that at this moment because it's not particularly relevant just yet. Also, you have Phosphor Gordo in here, blocking a funny little cave. I'm not gonna worry about doing anything with that right now, though. I'm mainly just looking around for some jellystone. None of the usual spots seem to have any at the moment. Yeah, there's not really much jellystone around here. I guess I can drop off the deep brine here. So yeah, the different resource types kinda harvest differently. I think the mineral deposits are kind of the odd one out in terms of how they're harvested. And you do harvest them all the same way functionally. Such that you basically you just use the backpack on them and that gathers the resource. But the spout and the hive resources, they give you their resources one by one. The mineral resources you have to You have to hold the backpack over them, and you saw they burst into all of their resources at once, rather than giving you the resources one at a time until it's depleted. So a little bit different. So let's see what we can find out here. Here's Q berries. You can pick that up for the entry. What do we need here? Honey plorts. Okay. We can open up a little shortcut tunnel with a honey plort. When we do that, I can actually explain what these doors are. Let me just go find... We could have technically done this earlier, I think, but my inventory was kind of full at the time. I didn't have a spectacular means of doing so. I'll grab this painted hen for its entry. Let me see if I can get this map from here. Yeah, we can grab a little bit of Rainbow Fields map. Oh, and it actually shows the locked doors on the map. Nice. Oh, that's why the zoom of the map kept changing. I forgot. I didn't realize the Z button was zoom out on the map screen. That's what I have my map set to, because it's easier to reach than M. That's funny. I don't think I'll worry about changing it though. I don't really need to. Oh, we've got a tar outbreak. Let's grab that honey plort and skedaddle on out of here. Oh wait, hold on. This is the resource we need. Wild honey. There is a different type of hive resource called buzzwax. It's not what we need right now, but it looks a little different. The wax has more of a grayish appearance. The honey is definitely much more vivid. Ooh, radiant ore. Yes, please. So this is the other side of where we picked up that storage module upgrade component. So now we can just run straight through to the honey slime area. Real quick, I do want this radiant ore, so I'm gonna go back and bank it at the refinery link real quick, because we do need a spare inventory slot for something that we're going to be acquiring deeper in Starlight Strand. Hopefully I can get there before it becomes nighttime, because that does matter for this, I think, if I remember correctly. Because we need 15 wild honey, I believe. And then after that, there's a new slime type that we need from here. And we're not really supposed to be able to get to this next area that I'm about to go to. But in my testing, I did find a little bit of a skip, in case you're not interested in getting the jetpack straight away. I can do a little jump up here. It's a little tricky with the Largos. I tend to find it easier to do with a tar if you're feeling brave. There's no third plort type to pick up here, so That's why I tend to try and do it with the Largos first. Gotta hop up on this tree. And try and jump off of the Largo onto the ledge up there. It's a little bit tricky. I don't have it down to a science yet or anything. So it is a little bit trial and error. It is going to be nighttime, unfortunately, but I suppose we'll just take that as an opportunity to test whether the thing I'm worried about is even worth worrying about. Because I think, if I remember correctly, the slime type that I'm trying to go for only spawns during the daytime. Here, let me just go get a third plort type or something. I find it easier to do with the tar, mainly because the tar are always trying to actively get to me, so they don't move around in the more unpredictable ways that the regular slimes do. There was some honey here. Good thing I came back. The wild honey is the more rare version of the resource. So here, I need you to come with me and not bite me, ideally. Just because it's ouchie boo-boo. Come here. You're really giving me trouble here, huh? Maybe let me try this from the direction I usually do. Oh, so close. If I can get up there, though, that is the place we need to be to get the slime type. Man, I cannot remember how I did this last night. I was just kind of doing it. And it just kind of worked out. You, sir, need to stop biting me. You do heal over time, but not very quickly. There we go. That's how you do. And be careful, you will immediately have hunter largos. And I think when they first spawn, they are aggressive. They're the feral type. So you gotta be a little bit careful about that. If they haven't recently eaten. Which it seems like they have. Oh, well. This guy's grumpy. Look at him, he's so grumpy. This is what the buzzwax looks like, by the way. It's a little bit more pale in comparison to the honey. We want to go this way. We want to come up here. Pass to the tree. We can grab this honey while we're here, actually. And there's another research drone we can check out too. Accessing GG log. I grew attached to this tree when I first discovered it. I used to sit here and tell it all about myself. But these days, it's different. I see myself in it now. Two different paths struggling against the other, bound to this island, and changed by it. But unlike this tree, I hope to leave the island someday. I want to find a way home. I really do. Now, one thing worth noting here, Starlight Strand has an interesting slime type and matching gimmick that goes along with them. At night, these flower spots will have Moondew Nectar. This only grows at night and is generally a little bit tricky to get in larger quantities, mainly because you only get one per flower. And there are a handful of spots around this general area and off in that direction there. But since these are the only type of food that the flutter slimes eat, because it's a unique food type, nectar, if you have just a flutter slime by itself, this is the only food you can use to feed it. No other slime will take this food, and the flutter slime will not take any other food type as appropriate feeding. So it's a no-brainer for me to mix the flutter slime with literally any other slime to make it more easily feedable without having to come back here, because you also can't put this into a garden, last I checked. So this is literally the only way to get them is from the world resource, which is a huge hassle, especially early on in the game. We can get a dash boot module though, which I think is for the second dash boot upgrade because the first one didn't need it. The thing about the flex of not making it into a Largo. That is fair, and that is also an individual decision to make for sure. I'm definitely not worried about having the prestige of only using nectar as the feeding. Also, you get to be immortalized in that screenshot. Gotta flex in your single player game. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what I'm here for. I play my cozy game competitively. Competitive coziness. Yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see. This is a spot where you can find puddle slimes. Puddle slimes are also a pretty unique slime type in that you don't feed them directly. They just need a water source to live in. Something like these little ponds. But then they just generate plorts passively over time as they hang out in the water. So they're another slime type that's uniquely outside of the standard feeding process. We have yet another research drum here. Accessing GG log. I used to start my mornings with a jog along this path. It felt so great to feel the sea breeze as I'd make my way to the hollow trees ahead. Sometimes I would even come back at the end of my day and watch the sun set. But I also think this is where I got robbed by a ringtail slime. And that is another kind of unique slime type that I've decided not to engage with yet. Oh good, you guys don't spawn only during the day. Awesome. That is very good for me. Hey, well look who it is. The ringtail slimes. Like the pink slimes, they will eat anything, but unlike the pink slimes, they will eat food even if they're not hungry. So they have unhealthy eating habits. So So you'll have to keep that in mind if you ranch them, to not give them totally unfettered access to food resources because they will consume them. Oh, whoa, hold on. Cotton slimes, you've got to go. I can get more of you later. Yoki slime is kind of a rare spawn. In these nest spots that spawn the hens, sometimes you will find Yoki slime. Yoki slime, no! Yoki slime, no! Oh dear. That is unfortunate. But we'll find another one, I'm sure. Yeah, so those guys are a random spawn from hen spots. And they have yet another totally unique, outside of the feeding system method of ranching. You actually keep them with hens in a coop, and every so often they will lay a giant egg. And if you break that giant egg open, it will contain chickadee versions of the hens that it's being kept with, and Yoki plorts. Now, since I've already given up the cotton slimes, I might as well just grab buzzwax while we're here. We'll just kind of make our way out of this place. So we have what we came for. We have 4 flutter slimes. That's all I was really here for. The Yoki slime was unfortunate. An unfortunate casualty of the process. We'll be exploring often enough that we'll probably come across another one at some point. Ooh, that's a sketchy jump. Just a little bit. I'm trying to look around for any more wild honey because we still need 7 more. Unfortunately, wild honey is the rare hive resource, whereas the buzzwax is the common one. So trying to find more of the wild honey is going to be a bit of an ask. A little bit more of a tall order than the flutter slimes turned out to be. Good to know, though, that the flutter slimes can spawn even at night. I thought it might be something similar like the phosphor slimes, but basically like an inverse where they would only spawn during the day and their food resource would only spawn at night. I certainly would not have been surprised if that were the case. Now this ringtail Gordo, it would be nice to unlock this spot, because I think this guy's blocking a one-way teleport back to the conservatory, which, considering how far away we are from the conservatory at this point... Oh, they show Gordos on the map too, nice. Boy, this map is great. I don't remember it having all of these markers on it. Maybe they didn't. And maybe that's part of why it's so good. But considering how far away we are from the conservatory, having to walk back all of that distance is not exactly the most appealing prospect, as you can imagine. So I think I'll take a little bit of time here to try and get this Gordo fed. Go up here. Trying to remember how I went through here. How did I go through here? Hold on. Oh, you can stand on here just a little bit. Yeah, this is where having the jetpack would be incredibly helpful. Oh, right. That's the other gimmick with these guys. When it's daytime, or under the same conditions that the phosphor slimes will disappear, these guys turn to stone. So unfortunately, he will not be feedable anymore. So I guess we'll have to make the long trek back. Guess I can just grab more of these berries. I don't think I can reach that map there. It's pretty firmly out of reach. I would caution against being too exploratory in areas like this. If you have to kind of... Oh, golden slime? Nice. We got ourselves our first golden plort. I'm hanging on to that bad boy for a rainy day. So those guys are a very rare spawn. I still don't like that jump. But basically, if you're able to hit them with an object, like shooting those berries out of my backpack there, if you manage to hit them, they'll drop a golden plort. Now, I believe there are two things that's good for. I believe there are some certain recipes. There are some things in slime science that require gold plorts as a resource. I think most of them are just getting other upgrades to get more gold plorts from hitting a gold slime. So it basically just feeds back into itself as an investment in a way. Or of course the more obvious choice of selling it for a buttload of cash. Since they're rare, you should shoot it out of your inventory so you can show it off. It won't fall in the water like the Oki slime did. Definitely not. I'm totally not just gonna mouse over to the buzzwax so I don't accidentally misfire or something. Easy breezy fan. Is that the FNAF fan? The desk fan, we have it. Yeah, I usually don't sell the gold plorts right away. Usually I just store them in the silo until I decide what I want to do with them. Because once it's in the refinery, that's it. It's in the refinery. You cannot do anything with it beyond that point. As I have previously mentioned. So if you're not sure what you want to do with something, with a resource just yet, you don't want to commit to putting it in the refinery, a silo is a good secondary option. Because that way you can retrieve it if you want it, or you can just take it out of the silo and put it in the refinery if that's where you end up wanting to put it. It gives you options without having to sit in your personal inventory the whole time, taking up a valuable space. especially when you only got 4 slots to work with starting out. Gosh, this power upgrade is fantastic. Unfortunately, we don't have as much wild honey as I would have liked to get. But with world resources, you do have to wait for them to regenerate over time. So eventually, later, there will be... that will randomly spawn some more resources in a different spot. Now it is worth noting, there are specific determined spots where certain resource types will spawn. So if you find like one of those spout resource spots next to the beach or something like that, if you put a flag there, that is a potential spawning spot for that same spout resource to spawn in the future. It's not a guarantee that there will always be something there. It's more so that it's a possible spawn location out of a pool of locations it has to choose from. But it can still be valuable to know where those spots are. Especially early on when you are looking to gather a lot of them. Let's see, I would like to get the high walls. I do need more money for the air net before I send these guys out. So how much does a silo cost? Because I should build one of those, 450. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna toss all the water lettuce in here. One thing I also tend to try and avoid early on is relying too much on purchasing the convenience upgrades for the corrals. There is one that would be pretty handy to have that I could potentially justify purchasing earlier. The one I'm thinking of is the plort collector. Basically, it just every so often, or when you press the button, it just automatically sucks up all of the plorts that are in the corral and puts them in nice little storage spots for you to grab them out at your leisure. It does have a maximum capacity of 100 though, so make sure that you do empty it out sometimes. Otherwise it's not going to be able to do its job. But that is a convenience upgrade I could justify getting early, just because it does make this whole process a lot faster rather than having to try and get in the mix and find all the plorts, try and figure out where they all are. You know what? I'm gonna get myself a little treat. Just a nice little treat. So you can see it's already going to work there. You may have also seen these Slimepedia entries coming up. This game has weather. And you can see it on the map screen here. It's in the upper left corner, you can see it. When certain weather conditions get extreme enough, there are some weather-specific slimes. There are some slimes that only show up during specific weather conditions. So that is worth keeping an eye on. because that's probably one of the most luck-based elements of this game, I think. Unless there is some large-scale pattern to how the weather behaves, which I don't know if there is or not. But just getting lucky enough to have to have the weather conditions that the certain specific slimes will spawn in to begin with, but also being able to find the slimes while that weather condition is active. That feels like one of the most luck-based elements of this whole game. And it took me a while when it did get released in early access to finally get both of the weather-dependent slime types. Because one of them I got pretty close to the start of playing after that update. The other one I didn't get until pretty close to the final early access update. So it had a while. There was definitely a while in between where the weather conditions just weren't quite lining up or extreme enough for that specific slime spawn. So that's something to generally keep an eye on as you're playing. Is just keep an eye out for extreme weather conditions and read those Slimepedia entries to see if there's any hints about when you might be able to find those slimes. Meat flag, okay. I guess you could use that for the chicken nests. It's interesting they call them chicken nests. They call these hens, but they seem to use it kind of interchangeably with chickens at times. But yeah, I don't think there's anything in there I really need at present. Let's get ourselves a little bit more money going here. So the other automation upgrade that you can get for the corrals is an auto feeder. Basically, you just put food into a storage unit and on a schedule, it will dispense a certain amount of food on a regular basis. And there's 3 different settings for the auto feeder. I think that mainly affects... I'm trying to remember. I think it affects the frequency of the feeding. It either affects the frequency or the quantity of food dispensed. But either way, you can see that plort collector doing strong work. It's much more convenient to pull the plorts out of these little storage modules, and you can press this button to manually activate it if you want to. It's pretty handy. Do that so I have my 2 inventory slots to work with. Early inventory management can be a little challenging. So being able to get those extra slots definitely helps a lot. It feels like such a breath of fresh air having just an extra space to work with. You're probably not going to need too many of the storage capacity upgrades to be able to hold like more of a single item. Just being able to hold more unique items at once is incredibly valuable. At least that's how I've found it to be in my case. Let's get the airnet. And now we can put some flutter slimes in here. Once those guys have a little bit more food, we can get ourselves some flutter cotton largos. And that is the end goal here. Speaking of which, I do need to go get some more cotton slimes. Because we're going to need a lot of flutter plorts. And I mean a lot. And that's why we want the water lettuce, because that's the favorite food of the cotton slime, which we're going to be having as our Largo hybrid. I guess we'll grab this jellystone while we're here. Can also get the entry for Roostro and the entry for Chickadoo. If we didn't already have it, I guess we did. Just take a little run around here, see what sort of resources were around. Once you unlock the conservatory expansions, there are some early game resource nodes that you can find in like the caves over there, stuff like that. So you have some resources a little bit closer to home, but I never really consider that to be a particularly huge benefit. Mainly because it's the resources you'd be getting are things where it's like, you may as well just go out into the world and go from point to point, checking all of the spawn spots. It's probably more efficient that way. But it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of passive resource gathering while you're checking on your ranch and stuff like that. It can be handy in a certain way. Let's sleep until morning just to get a little bit of extra time movement. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna worry about getting like the auto feeder right away. Alright, now we invest with cotton plorts. We get some flying bunnies. Look at them. Aren't they just adorable? You know what's probably the worst thing to give a very bouncy slime? Wings. But it'll be fine. So at this point now, I'll take some of the massive amounts of water lettuce that are in here, and we'll toss it into this corral so that these guys have something to eat. Go in here and gather these. Now we do need a lot of flutter plorts for slime science. But right away, I'm going to be selling them just so we can get more of the upgrades for the corral and the garden and stuff like that to really ramp up our production and really just kind of grease the wheels and get things moving. So let's sleep for another 6 hours. That'll keep things moving over there. Harvest our crops here. least as much as we can hold. Usually food items are the thing Food items and plorts, you're probably going to see the most benefit from storage capacity upgrades for things that you do in larger quantities on the ranch itself. You probably won't see quite as much direct benefit out in the field unless you're doing some pretty intensive resource gathering. So this kind of thing is where you probably see the most benefit. Because once you get to a point where these things start filling up super quick and you're having to run back and forth constantly to get the plort collector emptied out, you definitely start to appreciate that storage capacity a lot at that point. I know I do. So let's see here, we have that. We can get ourselves a plort collector here once we've sold this set of plorts here. So that we can cut down on having to do this, basically. And probably the biggest risk factor when it comes to potential tar outbreaks on a ranch. One, making sure that you are able to keep the slimes physically contained so that they're not just wandering around wherever. But also being mindful of where the plorts are going. All it takes is one plort going into the wrong corral. Whether that's because you accidentally shoot it off, or if you're doing like what I'm doing and just trying to grab them through the wall a little bit, and they just happen to spill out on the other side and you don't notice, and at some point ends up getting into a different corral. That's all it takes. And then suddenly you have a potentially huge problem on your hands. And that's why I usually cut it down to only having 2 largos per corral when I know I'm going to be away for a long time. Just because I feel like they're less likely to breach containment, and they're also not going to produce as many plorts. So there's less risk of the corral getting over full with plorts because the auto plort collector will not fill up quite as rapidly. But that's just the way that I play. At least that's the way I played during early access. We are working towards something right now that was only included with the full release of the game that is going to change things up a little bit in terms of how I approach certain activities. I'll just put it that way. And it's something that a lot of people, myself included, were really missing from the first game. Let's see, we can do another sleep, I think. And then we'll trade out the pink cotton largos for flutter cotton. I think we'll do it that way. Let's see, you guys. You guys do all your eating. Then we will send you out to the field. Goodbye. enjoy your new life out in the rainbow fields from whence you came. I'm cutting them loose. I'm setting them free. I'll have to make sure that I usher them a little further away so they don't try to wander back in and mess up the food supply. 'Cause look at them. They are just right here. I want them to just move along a little bit further. There you go. Just for safety's sake. Now, one thing that the auto feeder is also useful for is because it's only dispensing a certain amount of food at a time, you end up with fewer food items expiring. Because every so often you might see one of these heads of lettuce looks a little bit wilted, and when I try to vacuum it up, it just crumbles to dust. If a food item is left alone for too long, it will eventually expire. Here's one, I think. Yeah. So you see how it's looking notably less healthy? It is no longer able to be consumed as a food item, and it just crumbles to dust the moment you try to grab it. So auto feeders can help reduce how much food gets wasted because it's a controlled dispensing. So that is a benefit of the auto feeder. So let's see, we want some flutter plorts here. Let me grab them from here. And if you want to put plorts back in, just toss them in the corral and then press the button. Because these are extract only, you cannot put the plorts back in manually. You have to put them in the corral and then use the collector. Hey, eat the plort. There you go. Let me grab these back up. Here you go. Just want these guys to get the flutter plorts. There they go. Okay. So now we've got 2 corrals set up with 4 flutter cotton largos each. So that'll be handy. Just get all sorts of stuff here. And since we're feeding them the favorite food of the cotton slime, that'll give us a good amount of everything. So this is the way I've been planning to get the flutter plorts going. You can see the value of the flutter plorts is starting to come down again, since we've been feeding so many of them to the market. But at least to begin with, it's a pretty decent windfall, because the value starts at a fairly generous amount compared to, you know, pink plorts, the absolute most basic plort possible. Now we're at a point where I could consider, maybe putting some auto feeders on this stuff. But I want to get that silo first. So I want to get this gold plort out of my inventory. I don't know if you can store slimes. You cannot. Okay. Sometimes it's a little ambiguous what can or can't be stored in things, so don't be afraid to experiment. Just be mindful of potential consequences. Don't get too crazy right away. Well, you know, never hurts to try. You can always go out into the world and gather more of what you need if anything happens on the ranch that is less than favorable. I'm just trying to think where I want to go with this now. Let's see. I think we do another corral with the high walls. And we'll start going in that direction next. Just kind of split the food 2 ways here. Then do another 6 hours. Just grab the different plorts coming out here. You know, like just dealing with 2 feedings from 2 corrals with 4 largos each of the favorite food. My inventory slots are almost completely full just from those plorts alone. So like I said, you definitely feel the storage capacity upgrades a lot more on the ranch. I want the airnet. That is the minimum we need to be able to put cotton slimes in here. Do another 6 hours. Use some of these flutter plorts to convert the cotton slimes that we have over in the other corral. Yeah, I'm full. I can't even hold as many as they've generated. There we go. You can try to shoot food or plorts directly at the slimes, and usually they're pretty decent about latching onto it and eating it right away. Sometimes it's a little bit hit or miss, but not a huge deal. Just something that can be beneficial to try and get it to happen. But sometimes it doesn't. And that is okay too. Now I know I've gone over a lot of information up front here. But this is a game that I feel like I know a pretty decent amount about. And it is a game that I enjoy quite a lot. So for anybody who is here on the stream, or if you're watching the archive, definitely let me know if you have any questions about things that we've covered so far, or maybe things that we haven't even gotten to yet. And I will I will do my best to answer. Because if I don't know the answer, then that just makes for an interesting learning experience for everybody as we try and figure out what the answer would be. Let's save up a little bit more money before I go into building another corral here. I'd like to be able to set it up a little bit more. Well, actually, I should probably start upgrading the gardens now to get more crops faster. This is one interaction that I'm not sure about with the water tank. I don't know if manually watering the gardens has the same effect as these automatic sprinklers from the sprinkler upgrade. Whether that does make the food grow faster. It's not something I've tested, but maybe somebody has. Let's sleep for 6 hours. I figure getting more frequent food is probably more beneficial to me right now, because it means I can keep the corrals topped off and sort of mitigate any gaps caused by expiring food items. Let's get that and then grab our remaining food items from up here. I should look and see if I have... We need to check in with the slime research and get the slime science stuff. Figured out. See if there are upgrades I could be using right now. Actually, you know what? Let me do that right now because I'm already feeling the pinch with the storage capacity. I think we're good on all that. Tank booster, I need more money. Okay, I can do that. I can do that real quick. Just sell the 100+ plorts that just came out. And they're making more of them, my goodness. Okay, let's sell these off first, and then I'll go to the other corral. See, that tends to be one of the biggest reasons why exploration was kind of tough for me with the early access of this game. Is not having total automation does mean that I feel compelled to come back here regularly and just kind of make sure that things are not in total disrepair. And that makes it hard for me to feel compelled and comfortable to just go out and about, just exploring willy-nilly. I will get the jetpack as well because that is very handy to have. We have the resources for it. Do keep in mind, the jetpack also uses energy. So you just hold the jump button and you can float around. Very fun and incredibly useful. because it also does give you a little bit of extra height. It's basically like a second jump in terms of verticality. Plus a ton of hang time. So you can just really get up here. Can even get up in the tree. You don't need to start with a full energy bar to be able to use it. But do keep in mind how much you have, because you do not want to run out of energy while you're over a big pit or something. See, as long as you're mindful to not get in too over your head, jetpack is a really, really nice upgrade. I'm gonna keep trying to get this whole what am I thinking? What's the word that my brain is trying to... I guess conveyor belt was kind of the word I was looking for. It just didn't feel right, I guess. But yeah, now that these guys are going through my food supply pretty eagerly, that's why I'm going through and upgrading the gardens next. Oh, that storage capacity already working wonders. Look at this. So good. So good. Being able to just hold all of this and not have it be a huge problem. Very handy. I think in terms of ranching, the storage slot upgrades where you are able to hold more different items at once, that really starts to be beneficial on the ranch when you have several different types of slimes and you're having to juggle several different types of plorts all at once. That's where having extra slot capacity, just being able to hold more different types of plorts at once helps cut down on running back and forth a lot. Give them an equal share of the food. Let me upgrade the sprinkler on this garden. I'm curious, when is night? Whoa, wow, it's 18, okay. That is not the time I thought it would be. But it makes sense that that's what it would be, considering 6 a.m. is the morning. But it's fine, we've got pretty controlled circumstances here. If we had a way bigger ranch with a lot more going on, that may have been an incredibly risky thing to do. But with things set up the way they are right now, it's pretty safe. all the slimes here are the same two types anyway. So worst thing that could really happen is just some of their eating happens outside of the corrals instead of inside it. Not too big of a problem though, if that were to occur. Let's get the sprinkler, and then I think we can start affording, yeah, nutrient soil, which makes crops always yield the maximum harvest. So with the gardens, starting out, before you have that nutrient soil upgrade, you don't always get the same amount of crops from every harvest. It does vary to some extent. So having the nutrient soil upgrade is helpful not only from a supply perspective of just making sure you have consistently more crops over time in general, but also a consistent amount. And that can definitely help when it comes to playing in a way that's more where logistics is something that you consider a lot more. If you're the type of person that is very interested in trying to maximize the efficiency of the ranch and just making sure that resources are being allocated in smart ways and minimizing anything that could be inefficient or wasteful, that's definitely a huge boon. It's just having a consistent supply of crops. That's why I like the crops a lot more than dealing with the chickens, because the chickens are more complex when it comes to trying to determine how many of them you're looking at over time. Just getting a sense of how much value, how much food they're producing over time. It's a lot less straightforward than the crops, because the crops just do the same thing at the same time once you've got all the upgrades. Nutrient soil makes them always produce the same amount. Sprinkler just doubles the time it takes, or it doubles the rate at which they grow. To make sure I'm saying that correctly. But it's always a consistent amount of time. This just makes that time less. Scare slime, I don't really know how much this is necessary. This is more so a backup safety measure rather than something that's actively useful, I feel. Because this basically just makes sure, one, if you happen to get a random wandering slime or something from out in Rainbow Fields, which that barely ever happens to me. I was surprised we even got one toward the beginning of the game, but maybe that was just one that was loose around here as part of the tutorial setup anyway. And I just mistook it for one coming from the field. But the other use case for it is if you do happen to have a slime escape, they won't absolutely ravage your food supply. It at least kind of keeps them away from the food supply so that it's a little bit more safeguarded, for what it's worth. Personally, I do play carefully enough that I haven't had any containment breaches or tar outbreaks or any of that sort of stuff. I think the worst I've seen is having some of the jumpier slimes like these guys. I've seen them temporarily break the air net before, but they've never escaped from containment while that's happened. So I think at worst I've basically had the threat of them escaping, but never actually a full-blown escape. I think now we're getting a pretty decent amount of plorts and money from everything. I do want to check one thing here. How much would it cost for another tank booster? I need more radiant ore. I need angler and tabby plorts as well. That might be worth going for pretty soon. I'm not gonna worry about it at this particular moment. Sleep till morning. We're almost done with the flutter plort production line set up here. Production line is more so the terminology I was looking for earlier when I said conveyor belt. Not gonna worry about that. Just gonna take what's here and move along. I just want to get one more corral set up with enough amenities, and then I want to get auto feeders on all of these so that we can go out and do other things at least somewhat. Ooh, thunderstorms going on. Can't remember if that, oh yeah, it does do something. I do remember that being something. There are, in addition to weather specific slimes, there are some weather specific resources. And I think thunderstorms have one of those. I think they're storm crystals, if I remember correctly. The weather stuff was added in one of the later early access updates, so I'm not super familiar with them like I am with most of the baseline mechanics of Slime Rancher as a whole. It's gotta be a No Man's Sky reference. It's gotta be. Totally. I think they're called storm crystals. I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe we can go out and take a look real quick. So with the thunderstorm, there should be lightning strikes that happen occasionally. And wherever the lightning strikes, I think there's a chance of the resource spawning in and make sure the weather is still extreme. So when you're looking for extreme weather, you're looking for the 3 arrows. You've got 3 levels of severity for each weather condition. You've got the blue single. You got the blue single arrow, you got the yellow double arrow, and then you've got this red triple arrow like we've got right now. And usually the weather specific events are going to be happening during the triple arrow times where the weather is at its most extreme and intense. I was kind of looking around. I don't know if there's actually lightning. I think there's weather entries here, yeah. So we have pollen, we have rain. Yeah, naturally water wild fruits, veggies, and crops. I feel like that's mentioned for a reason. Maybe maybe watering crops manually does affect them. Either that or the rain condition just makes the natural resources more plentiful. One of the two. Or possibly both, who knows? So yeah, thunderstorms could have lightning strikes, it looks like. It is worth checking the Slimepedia every once in a while if there's something you're unsure about. Keep an eye on it, sometimes it's got some pretty useful information in there. Yeah, if you're looking for anything that's tied to weather conditions, it is going to be at least somewhat up to luck. Because just like real life weather, you kind of just have to deal with what you're given. You can't really directly affect it in any meaningful way. So that's why I say it's the kind of thing that you generally keep an eye on it over the course of doing other things in the game. If you happen to see a weather pattern developing that you've been looking for, then you can maybe go out of your way to engage with it at that point, rather than just sitting around and waiting for the weather to just happen to turn your way. Though I wonder, I haven't been paying super close attention to the weather specifically when doing the sleeping. I don't know if the weather is affected by real time or in-game time in terms of how frequently it will change. So that could be good to know as well. Let's get this final corral set up here with the high walls and the air net. That gives us enough to be able to put the last cotton slimes in there. Let's sleep well, let's just do 6 hours. That's just always the safest option. Well, pretty much always the safest option. Get ourselves a little bit more money here. Ideally, we'll also be able to get the auto feeders set up here pretty soon. And that went pretty smoothly for these guys. We'll get food distributed shortly. Now, one general piece of advice that can be good for playing through the first time, especially blind, is just being able to have at least one food type on you at all times. Whether you decide that's a fruit or a veggie, just having a good amount of food items with you as you're exploring can be good. If you stumble across a Gordo and it happens to take the same food type, it can be handy. And it also minimizes your reliance on any locally available food sources. And basically just making sure that you personally always have a food supply, even if the natural resources have kind of been consumed already by the time you get there. Normally that won't be a big concern when you're entering a new area for the first time, because I think things generally seem to stay pretty, like, things start off in a pretty initialized state. But once you've been to an area and you're kind of going back and forth, it starts to get a little bit more unpredictable as to whether there's going to be certain resources available at any given moment. So having your own food supply with you can be helpful. Just as a general piece of advice. But if you do know of a specific Gordo and you would like to deal with that Gordo, get them fully fed and all that, I mean, there are a couple of ways you can go about it. Depending on which food is their favorite food, you might be able to gather that food from nearby. You could also bring one of their favorite food back to home base, grow it in one of the gardens, stock up on it, and then go back out. And just get the whole process done in what essentially would boil down to 2 trips. Like, you've definitely got some options in how you want to approach the Gordo situation. That's just a general piece of advice. Just make sure you have some type of food available to you as you're exploring. Because the other thing too is, if you do happen to chance upon a golden slime, those food items can be used to try and hit the gold slime and get a gold plort from it. But it's like, food is not only for feeding, it can be used for other purposes too. Music box would also probably be nice to have, reducing slime agitation so that they're less likely to try and break out. Yeah, I think I want to get these things really just well set for when we actually go out and explore. So let's look at the weather. We have 1 rain, 1 wind. Let's sleep until morning and look at the weather. I mean, it looks like it's raining, but I'm not seeing weather icons on the map. I'm wondering if maybe that's just the remnants of, yeah, it looks like the rain's ending. So yeah, no weather. No more weather. So maybe it is tied to in-game time. If that's the case, then maybe sleep strats are something to consider. I'll have to look into that more though, because I do not know. I do not know whether those conditions are real-time or in-game time controlled. Just fill up completely here. Go sell these off. So yeah, now at this point we're basically fully set up for our early game money and flutterplorts. Flutterplorts in particular are something I really wanted to get going in the more immediate timeline, because they do have a couple of very nice use cases. One of them being something that I referenced vaguely earlier as something that only came to the game in the full release, and is something that was in the previous Slime Rancher that was not present in Slime Rancher 2 until the full release. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that, to being able to put these flutterplorts to good use. This one didn't make it in. There we go. Let's keep getting... We should be able to get the other two music boxes here. Do you have... Yes, you have the nutrient soil, okay. Let's get the music boxes for these two corrals. And then how much does the auto feeder cost? $7.50. Pricey, but definitely worth its weight. Do a little distribution of food there. Do another quick sleep cycle. Boy, I wish I could sleep for only 6 hours. But that's just not how I'm built. As tragic as it is, I do actually have to get several hours of sleep. I'm not one of those people that can operate totally fine off of very little amounts of sleep. But that's just how it is for me. At least I know that about myself, and I'm able to plan for it accordingly. Let's see, we're almost done getting these corrals fully set up. I don't need to worry about getting the solar shields with these corrals because these slime types are not light sensitive, so it would just be a waste. There's really no specific reason to go out of my way to get the solar shield. Let's see. Let's start getting auto feeders going here. You can take the food that's in the corral right now set it up with the auto feeder over here. You can see the frequency adjustment button there. I tend to keep it on the lowest setting, just because then I don't run out of stuff super quick. I don't have to constantly refill it. So then it just dispenses some food. It just kind of keeps everything a little bit more controlled and regular. I don't know if it really has any, I don't know what sort of impact it would have on the efficiency of the speed of getting more plorts. But I appreciate the resource management aspect of it. Makes managing the food supply a lot easier. Okay, we will get these. Go in here. Well, I'm all full up. I'm gonna work on trying to fill these auto feeders one by one here. They can hold up to 100 at maximum capacity. Get that there and do another sleep cycle. I think one thing that was also a pretty late addition was slimes having a sleeping state. I think that might have been in the either the second to last or the last early access update that they added that in. And there is a specific reason for that, but we won't get to it for a long time. Let's do one more sleep cycle. So I need these crops to grow here. I need to give them a little bit of food so that they stay happy and well fed. So yeah, this early game effort here is mainly just to try and get us well set up for the future, so we have a strong foundation to work from moving forward. I do not plan to push the ranch this hard the whole time. This is just kind of getting early game set up pretty strongly. Get the auto feeder for you guys. sell these plorts off, and I think... Yep, we can afford the last auto feeder. Because my early access playthrough's layout was pretty similar to this. The corrals are in the same place, I had a silo here. Literally the only thing that's different about this setup is that this plot is a garden now instead of I had it set up as a coop in the early access playthrough I did. So that part is ever so slightly different. I think in general I'm probably going to be doing less with the chickens for the aforementioned reasons of them being kind of less predictable and less consistent to work with than the crops. That's just my personal preference though. Feel free to play this game however you want. There's a lot of personal configuration. Oh, vine tangle. So here, make for a great hunting ground for the wild tangle slimes that sometimes appear. So the weather we're getting right now at triple pollen, when you get extreme pollen conditions, there's a possibility to come across tangle slimes. Let me just make sure there's no crops to put out. There is. I want to make sure that these don't rot when I get them distributed here. And then we're gonna head out to the field and see if we get lucky. If we can find even one tangle slime is enough. Literally, if we just have one of a slime, we can get more plorts and we can make it a hybrid. We can make it into a Largo with any other slime type. So I'm just gonna take a look around and see what's going on. If we happen to come across a tangle slime, that would be pretty neat. Hey, there you go. Nice. I think that's the same thing that happened to me in the early access playthrough. The tangle slime was a super early acquisition, basically immediately when they added when they had the weather update. I wasn't so lucky with the other one. The other one took a long time. And I think it's partially because while pollen is a single condition, I think the other slime type needs extreme weather from 2 conditions at the same time. So I think it's just statistically less likely to happen. And the probability of it happening is just naturally lower. So that causes its own sort of problems. But hey, we got this tangle slime. Once we get out to a certain expansion of the conservatory here, I have a perfect place for it. But for now, I'm just gonna hang on to it in the inventory, because I don't really have a good place to put it right now. It's also a meat eater. which does not work well with my planned playstyle. So it doesn't really have, I don't really have a good place for it right now. But eventually we'll have a good spot for it. I do want to unlock the expansions in a certain order though. Well, at least there's this one specifically I want to unlock first. And there's a specific reason for that, but we'll get to that when I have enough funds to actually do that. I don't think there's any other upgrades we need for the corrals. The gardens should be all set. Yeah, I think I'm just saving up money for the expansion and just trying to get more food for the auto feeders. Yeah, the pollen's starting to die down now. Let's get these distributed here. I think, I'm trying to remember how much the expansions cost. I think it's 2,800 new bucks. Which early on in the game can be maybe a touch hefty, especially if you're doing something like what I'm doing and putting the money that you earn into upgrades directly rather than unlocking the expansion. Let me just double check the price real quick. Yep, 2,800. And all three of them cost that same amount. I'll have to double check once I've unlocked one of them if the prices on the other two change at all. Because I don't know. I don't remember if the price changes after acquisition. Is there anything in slime science while I'm thinking of it? Could get the water tank. We don't really need it. We don't need it right now. Later on it'll be kinda nice to have. But for now, not really necessary. I'd rather save the money up. Let's do another sleep cycle. Gather the new crop. Harvest here. And then next time when I stream this next week, we'll hopefully be in a good position to do some more exploration and character interaction, stuff like that. For multiple reasons. We're in the home stretch here. I just need enough money to unlock that conservatory expansion. once I've got that, we should be able to start doing something, or at least be able to see something interesting. I can't remember if we'll have exactly everything we need. Now that we're closing in on the cash amount, once we have all the money we need, basically what I'll be doing is just banking all of the plorts. I'll be putting the flutter plorts into the refinery. I'll be keeping the cotton plorts here in the silo. There is a reason for that. It does serve a specific purpose, which is basically what I've been working up to this whole time. All of this setup was with, well, general foundations were in mind, of course, but I did have a very specific goal I was aiming for with this as well. I think because we're close enough, I'm gonna start banking the flutter plorts right now, because we need 100 of them in the refinery. And then we'll just sell the cotton plorts. Get some more food in the auto feeders. There's no crops to harvest. Do another sleep cycle. Just let these guys do some assumption. And then gather the goods after. Boy, these guys are eating a lot of their food. Alright, we have enough money now. So I'm gonna start storing the cotton plorts. What kind of weather do we have going on right now? Nothing? Okay. Different weather conditions can change the musical score. That's why I checked it. I think this might just be because it's nighttime in the conservatory or something. It is very nice music, though. I think I'm gonna have to listen to this in my spare time and just properly appreciate it. Because I don't think I've ever taken the time to listen to it outside of the in-game context. Drop these off. We should be up to 54 after this. Yes, okay. Just checking. We do have some crops to distribute here. I think this will actually round out to be a pretty nice reparation stream. All things considered, with the pace at which things have gone, we've gotten a little bit of exploration. And a lot of initial setup. Now the look and the layout of this ranch will definitely be changing a lot, especially as we get more expansions and are generally, one, more well off in terms of having on-hand resources, but also needing a larger variety of different resources. So we'll be needing more different slime types. But while this is generally the intended method of play, it is called Slime Rancher after all. It is totally possible if you wanted to, especially if you wanted to maybe like challenge yourself a little bit more. You could try playing this game as, I guess, a scavenger. Just don't use the conservatory's resources for anything except for what's literally only possible to do here, like the slime science. Basically just only gather plorts and food items and world resources and stuff like that from out in the field. If you need plorts from a certain type of slime, well, you gotta go find it. That sort of thing. That could be a fun way to play through the game. I figure I might do something like that for maybe a replay of the game. Call it a challenge run or something like that. It's like, hey guys, we're playing through Slime Rancher 2, but I'm not going to do any ranching. I accidentally sold the plorts I was autopiloting. That's fine, it's only 2 plorts of each. While I'm thinking of it, since we have the funds to do so, let's unlock the archway. Let's take a look over here at our brand new expanded area. Isn't it cool? Isn't it neat? Like, wow. This place is wonderful. This right here, this is where I used to have all of my chicken coops. They were all here. Like, this one spot was a silo for storing them, but every other plot here, all these 4 plots, these were all coops, each with a different kind of chicken in them. And this is where basically all of my warp depots were being used, just so I would have access to all of the different chicken types where they were needed elsewhere on the ranch. Oh, if only I could crouch. Oh yeah. I forgot I have a jetpack now. Hello, research drone. Accessing GG log. I'd been pacing all over the conservatory after it happened, my mind racing with what I should have done differently. I felt so guilty, so misguided. I ended up in these ruins, and I just slumped up against one of the walls, totally exhausted. The stones were so solid and cold, and I felt the weight of the history they carried with them. And then, a tiny bug crawling along one of the cracks in the wall slipped inside it and vanished. It passed through these ancient stones as if they were smoke. That's when it all came to me. But what does it mean? The burning questions that they leave us with. Oh, hello, little buddy. So this guy's fun. Ghostly drone. Mysterious technology acquired? The quantum component you just acquired vibrates with an almost otherworldly energy. See what you can build with it in the lab. So that was a ghostly drone. Those guys were not in early access. So they are completely, entirely, 100% brand spanking new. We can also get this treasure pod while we're here. Ooh, fruit flag. And you can see the recipe there is just some pretty basic early game resources. One thing I will say, a good argument for mixing a lot of slimes, if not every slime with the pink slimes. If you like using these flags, you're gonna need a lot of pink plorts. Each flag costs 5. So it's definitely, if you like using those flag markers, it is hugely to your benefit. I almost forgot to take a map screenshot here. It is hugely to your benefit to save up on those pink plorts. Alright, this screenshot goes in a new folder titled Conservatory. And this is one of 3, I imagine. That since there are 3 treasure pods to find here in the conservatory, I can't remember for sure because it's been a long time since I've gone and found them, but I assume each of the expansions would have one. I'll say one thing that's pretty nice about Slime Rancher 2's map design and just world layout compared to the first game is it definitely feels like they accounted for the jetpack's verticality a lot more with the way that they've laid things out in Slime Rancher 2. Because Slime Rancher 1 is generally a much more horizontal experience. There's not too much that you do with verticality until later in the game. And a lot of where you can reach with the jetpack, if you know where to go, feels kind of like you're just skipping outside of the boundary walls they have set up to kind of keep you on track. At least it kind of felt that way to me. But here it feels a little more intentionally designed, which is good. So let me clean up some of these port collectors here. Let me get these emptied out. And then we'll go take a quick peek at the Slime Science Center. I should probably deal with the crops as well, since it looks like there's more of them out and about. Yeah, I don't know the exact conditions for the ghostly drones showing up. All I know for sure is that once I got an expansion, I found that ghostly drone out there. And after that point, I was able to find more ghostly drones out in the overworld in places that I had not seen them before when I was exploring. So I get the feeling that their appearance condition is getting an expansion, which would make sense considering what the ghostly drones are tied to in terms of functionality. Ooh, we only need 20 more flutter plorts. Because when you're expanding the ranch, you're gonna, if you're using all the plots and stuff like that, you're gonna be doing more stuff. And you know, if you're doing more stuff, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a helping hand. The drones are finally back. We had to wait until the full release of the game for it to happen, but it happened. Oh yeah, we definitely do not have what we need for this. But this is what I've been working toward with all of this prep. And this is why we need so many flutter plorts. Because quantum drone stations are very, very useful. Like, incredibly useful. I'm not going to get into all of the stuff that they are capable of, because I did do a little bit of research on these guys. Just to try and figure out what their general usage would be in this game. It's an interesting one. We'll still need to go to another part of the world that we haven't been to yet to get this particular resource that's a question mark right now. But we need some more flutter plorts, more of this mysterious resource that, oh no, who could possibly know what this is? We need more wild honey, we need strange diamonds. I'm really sad that my test file, I got 3 of these right away because I found 2 gold jars next to the cotton gordo. And they both dropped strange diamonds. But now I'm here with the stream save file and nary a diamond to be seen. I think they also, if I remember correctly, I think the patch notes actually had them reduce the amount of, yeah, quantum drone stations require fewer strange diamonds to craft. Yeah, the most recent patch that they put out just kind of made certain challenging elements of the game a little bit more easily manageable. It's mostly late game stuff, so we won't be seeing it for quite a while. But the quantum drone station's strange diamond cost is one of them. And considering how challenging it can be to actually track down the strange diamond, it's arguably the rarest resource, at least as far as my experience in early access goes. Arguably one of, if not the most rare resource to come across. The reason I had to say that is because there was one other resource in one of the specific updates that added a new zone. There was a resource in there that I just had the absolute worst luck finding. It just was not going well for me trying to find it. That's why I have to put the caveat of one of, if not the rarest, for the Strange Diamond. Because at least with Strange Diamonds, I had an idea of where to look. The other resource I was having so much trouble with. But again, that'll be a good bit later into the game, so we won't see that for a while. But this is what we're working towards. They do different tasks if at the ranch or out on the range. In Slime Rancher 1, the drones could only be on the ranch, and you could have 2 of them per expansion. And I think the maximum you could have with that in mind was 16 drones. With this, we're gonna have a maximum amount of 18. However, that does come with a bit of a catch, but we're not going to get too deep into that today. One of the catches is that we have to also get these drone station modules, which are in limited supply, which is why we can only have 18 at maximum. But even just having 1 is going to be very helpful. These things will only get more useful the more of them we acquire, which is why I went out of my way to set up Lutter plorts specifically, because we need a lot of those. Yeah, that's basically what I've been working up to through this stream, is just trying to get us closer to that point where we can actually make use of the drones. Quantum drones are going to be very, very helpful, but I'm not going to get too much into that right now, because that is my time for today. We have covered a lot of good ground though, and I am very happy to be back. And as a reminder, if anybody has any questions about this game, definitely feel free to ask me. I will try my best to provide an answer, and if I don't know the answer, then hey, I'll be learning something too. But I am very happy to be back with this game. And next time, we'll be getting into more of the exploration now that we've tackled a lot of the upfront busy work part of things, where I just kind of get myself set up to go out. So in between this stream and the next, I'll try and see if I can figure out which graphics setting was causing issues with my model, because I had to keep everything on the lowest just to be safe today. I'll see if I can figure out what was causing that issue specifically. I might do just a touch of world resource farming just in this initial area to get more jellystone and deep brine. But I'll try not to do too much, because I want this to kind of be a little bit more of like a play along kind of thing in a way. Or I guess maybe not play along, considering that I only do once a week, but more of like getting to see what the experience is like starting fresh and just going through that way. I want to try not to do too much stuff outside of what I do on the streams. You know what I'll do? I think probably what I'll do between this and next stream, this will probably keep me busy for a little bit. Start working on the maps. Just start getting an idea of how I want to go about making my personal treasure pod location maps. Because the way I did it last time was kind of slapdash and not really... It could have been cleaner. So I'll probably work on that in between this stream and the next. But that will be it for me for today. Thank you all for being here and hanging out. I appreciate you all joining in. And it's good to be back on the ranch. Just know that somebody cares about you because I care about you. And until the next stream, take care, everyone.